All right. All right, all right. Humming, coming at ya. Another beautiful day in Tampa Bay. Uh, Trying to get it. Trying to get it. Oh man, bags in my eyes. Not sure if I overslept or underslept. I'm not sure what that is. I look like an angry puppy. Daniel C, what's up? Getting on my walk and talk. It's like a walkie talkie without the talkie walkie. There you go. Whatever. Making stuff up as I will move along. What's up, you guys? How's everybody today? Everyone's doing well. I am getting down. It's the walkmonger. Dun dun dun. I like that, by the way. It's the walkmonger. Yeah, having a good day today so far. Got my got my buds in. I'm not listening to anything right now though. Excal, how are you? How are you? Good to have you. Daniel says I'm just about to go to sleep. Have a good walk, man. Okay. You got it, baby. Sure got it. True, got it. Let's see. We'll keep going on to the next street. Who's this? Alfonso, what's up, man? He said, yo! What's going on, Alfonso? My man. All right, so I haven't done this since last week. It's been a week ago now. And I'm going to try to do it on the weekends too. I don't know about broadcast, but at least I'll just kind of walk and enjoy a brisk walk. You know what I mean? Terry Owie. Hey, man, how you doing? I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Thanks for joining me on my walk today. Appreciate you guys, uh, you know, encouraging me to stay healthy. I dig it. I'm breaking class that I pop in. Oh, right on, Alfonso. Breaking class. Well, I guess it is kind of late in the morning. All right. So, I'm waiting for more people to roll in before I start getting to the meat of the topic of New York Comic Con. Yeah. New York Comic Con. Mm-mm. I'm excited, man. I'm pumped up for the event. Thank you, Alfonso. I'm pumped up for the event. It's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be lots of people in a cramped space. Hopefully, spending money. Hopefully, that is the goal. That is the intended outcome. That people would have a good time and give me their cash. Have fun at NYCC. I will, Terry. I will. What's this? Starlight says good morning to all. Good morning, Starlight. How are you today? Starlight Cherise. 432. Heck. My man Hector, what's going on, brother? Dios te bendiga. Pa'lante y pa'l cielo, Helio. No, no, not yet. Not pa'l cielo todavía. No, no todavía. Give me some time. Or up into the sky. You know. If I have flight, that'd be cool. But anyway, yeah, man. So it's fun. It's fun to be able to broadcast live without a what do you call it? Without the delay. I forget. Everybody's responding very quickly. So yeah, New York Comic Con is the annual pilgrimage to Mecca for me. New York is. You know, I've never done San Diego. Um, I don't know that I need to though, to be honest. From all signs and all discussions about it, it's not a very good show for making money, but a good show for meeting people. And so I might go to San Diego one of these times, but I'm not sure I'm gonna try to exhibit in Artist Alley by any stretch. I'm not sure that's an important, or as important as it used to seem to me. I used to think I had to make it there, but New York has everything I need. Plus, it's kind of an opportunity to go back to my hometown. Probably be driving through the Bronx not necessarily staying in the Bronx like we did last year or the year before that. No, last year was in Jersey. The year before that we stayed in the Bronx. This year, I think we're staying further north. But I'm excited about that because I'm hanging out with my man Andy, and we got a good strategy to make cash, to make money, you know? So Hiroshi Paradox says, from what I hear, the only way to make money in San Diego now is to already be a huge name or to live locally and have no travel expenses. That's probably true. That's probably true. Yeah, I can't afford to, just the flight is expensive. Ironically, I could fly into Vegas cheaper, I think. Maybe I could fly to Vegas and rent a car. That's the same difference. Anyway. But then I have a short stay there anyway, so it's all the same. It's all the same. But why would I want to fly into Vegas and can't stay in Vegas and travel? That's dumb. Anyway, so New York is definitely that show. It's cool. So I wrapped up that Ghost Rider that I showed on social media over on Instagram. If you guys are inclined to check that kind of stuff out, I have my Ghost Rider. That's going to be the piece that I'm submitting to the St. Jude Children's Hospital art auction. Now that's an important auction to me. I participated every year, and even when I've done other Read Pop shows, I've taken great pride. That's weird. I hope that's not a power line hanging right over my head. Jalapeno Milk, what's going on? Every year I've gone to New York Comic Con. I think I've gone to New York Comic Con. Maybe this might be my 7th year. So weird. But I've always participated in the art auction for the kids in St. Jude's Children's Hospital. It's an important charity. And I understand that there's a lot of... I've heard people criticize these charities and say that they're full of bureaucracy, and not bureaucracy, but, you know, fat and red tape, and I guess, but anything that we can do. I don't have a direct path to all those kids. So, and someone has to funnel it through. Someone has to do the business of getting it to the kids. I'm not giving it to Mother Teresa. I'm giving it to an organization that has employees, and so they're doing good work as far as I'm concerned, so I'm willing to give. Oh, Jalapeno says, I'm up for a morning walk too. Cool, we're all walking together. That's all right. I like that. Good morning, everyone, says Jennifer. Like the smash. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer, I'm going to make you a mod if you aren't already. You're good. You're good. So, anyway, that's one of the biggest reasons why I still love to do New York Comic Con. I talk about it quite a bit. And, I mean, around this time, I talk about it quite a bit. I love the idea that my artwork can contribute. And I know in the end it's still money, but it inspires someone to give. And even if it's not a lot of money that it earns, it's okay, because it's going to a charity. It's going to go to these kids. It's going to really enhance their lives and hopefully save their lives. You know, and that's probably the most important thing. I'm over here walking, trying to save my fat arse. Why not save those kids if we can? Along the way. Go Party Time says, St. Jude's is a great place. I know a few people who work there, and they raise money with streamers on Twitch. Right on, see? That's what I'm talking about. So, I'm very excited. I've already lined up some commission work that I'm going to be doing while I'm there. And by the way, guys, if you guys are interested in commissions for the show, you guys should contact Andy at thelabcomics@gmail.com. If I remember, I'll put I've been neglecting going back to these videos and putting the information in, but I'm gonna put that on my phone somehow. Anyway, I'll make sure I include it later, but it's important. So anyway, if you're gonna, that kind of stuff will help me pay for the trip, pay for me being there, hopefully pay some bills, and then I can keep working. That's probably my last show of the year. That's my I kind of look at New York Comic Con. If I have anything new, print wise, which I won't have much. I used to do a lot of prints of like fan art, but I'm gonna walk down this street here. But I don't. I'm not doing that sort of stuff anymore. I'm not doing a lot of fan art anymore, except for something like a commission or something like that. I actually prefer leaving that for those companies, and now trying to do commissions of my stuff, my characters, or something unique. I'm down for that. If you guys are interested in doing some kind of unique commission, like create a new character for this, or give me a monster. You know, as long as I own the rights to the monster, that's all I care about. Justin McClure, what's going on? It says exercise the demons. It's funny you say that. I'm actually going to do a fresh viewing of The Exorcist soon. That's I've been kind of, especially in this time of year, I watch horror movies all through the year. But I'm very selective about them. I'm mostly interested in supernatural movies. I'm not really a slasher film guy. Love ghost stories, and possession stories are cool. They're good. It's a very tough subject to think about. So after New York Comic Con, I do have one more event here in Tampa, but it's a smaller event. Actually, it's not. Other than the fact that I like monsters and horror movies, it's not really a comic show at all. It's called Spooky Empire, and it's typically or normally done. Jim O'Reilly, what's going on? Hello. It's typically or usually done over in jamming now. Lots of cars in here. Usually done over in Orlando, but this year they're doing it here in Tampa. So I'm going to be. Andy and I will have a booth there to sell our mini mongers, our scary mongers, and stuff like that. Lightning fan, what's going on? Oh my God, my husband's best friend goes to Spooky Empire every year. What? Yeah, it's going to be in Tampa this year. And we're going to set up there. It's going to be fun. And let's see what else. But yeah, that's the only other show. So for me, New York is, but I kind of use New York differently. New York for me is almost like a, what's the word? Not the word. It's almost like an event like Daytona 500. It's the big race at the beginning of the year, of the season for NASCAR. That's my New York Comic Con. It's the big show at the beginning of the convention cycle for me, because if I'm going to have anything new, I'm going to have it there. This year I have a couple of new pieces, and I will be selling the tar out of DOOMKICKER while I'm there. I'm getting flyers put together, the little cards, 4x6 cards. And those are actually cool. It's going to be like a little mini print of the cover and some of my information on the back talking about the project. So I'm looking forward to doing that and really kind of sharing it with that audience, because it's such a vast audience. There's so many people that go to New York. So many. So I'm excited about that. Jim Riley says, I had to cancel Baltimore this year, but at least they credited me for next year. I love that show. But why did they have to cancel it? I'm not up on all the recent news for all this stuff. But I hope it was okay. All right, so I'm almost 15 minutes in. When I get to about 20, I'll make my way back. 18 minutes or so. But canceled. Well, that's good. Good. Oh, because they couldn't read it yet. I bet. Well, I've never done Baltimore. I heard it's a decent show. But I got to be honest with you guys. I'm listening to all this news. I'm listening to all this stuff that's going on. I got a concern about some of these conventions and what what may be happening. I have a funny suspicion that we're going to see a shift out of these super shows, where we have all these what do you call them, celebrities and all that jazz. I think that's going to come to not a grinding halt. I can't say that. I think you'll still have San Diego. I think you'll still have New York. But I think some of these other shows are going to struggle because there's not going to be a lot of comic book business going on anymore. Yeah, it'll be pop culture, but I mean, I guess pop culture will linger longer than I think, probably or than I'm giving it credit for. Because I think that the movie is the new comic. I was talking to my best friend, one of my best friends. I have a few, and we were talking about, first of all, technology is keeps shortening the time between epochs or eras, right, in the comic industry. So I just learned recently that DC Comics up to I think to the 70s is dominating the industry, apparently. And Baltimore is art heavy, always makes money, and had enough to secure the following year. Oh, that's good. I think that DC dominated, and apparently the reason why they did their, in the early 80s, they did their Crisis on Infinite Earths was because there's a younger company called Marvel Comics. Now I know you guys say, come on, you know better than that. Marvel Comics has been around for a while. Yes and no. Marvel Comics existed prior to that as Timely. It disappeared for a long time. And then this new thing called the Marvel Superhero arrives in the 60s. And if you think about this, as opposed to today, they didn't have internet. They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have, what do you call it? Even mail service. They didn't have FedEx. They had snail mail, or you lived by the city, you brought your artwork in and blah, blah, blah. So everything took longer and transitions took longer. So by the time DC starts to launch their Crisis on Infinite Earth story, yeah, I said it. I'm going to explain that in a second. By the time this happens, the Marvel had been already working busy 20 years prior. So it took about 20 years for them to roll around and start to dominate, start to shift along with the aging out of the customer. Now you guys check my math on all this stuff, by the way. This is this interesting conversation about this. After that, about maybe less than 10 years later, something new happens at a company with these guys from Marvel. So basically, Marvel usurps the sales of DC, and DC has never quite recovered from that. Marvel comes in, and they usurp their throne. Then here comes Image, and for a short time up to the bubble pop, they took over from Marvel. Marvel was desperate to catch up to Image. Image takes over, the bubble pops, things subside. I feel like the indie comic and these smaller companies start to pop up. Dark Horse. Dark Horse has been around for a while, but you understand that it's just been getting shorter and shorter. The time span, the time it took for these companies to fall apart in the modern time. Remember, when the time DC hits, what do you call it? A Crisis on Infinite Earths. Their first superhero was in 39. We're talking about a significant 40, 50 years from the time that they had all that business. So that they dominated the market. So with advanced technology, computers and creating comics. It gets easier for people to make comics. All of a sudden in the 90s and then into the aughts, you have a bunch of small press companies coming up. And the comic industry is still unhealthy, by the way, at this point. Because the reason why I say it's unhealthy is because only a few players are playing. In fact, we still refer to these as the big two, as though they were one big organization. But they're still competitors. So who's competing against comics now? It's the movies. Because kids aren't reading. They're not reading anything. They won't even teach them script, I think, for subversive reasons, but I'll leave that alone. They won't teach them script, they're not reading. They watch only YouTube. It's all visual media now. Film. For this next generation, the only context that any of these kids have, my buddy was telling me this thing about 80 years of Batman. No kid's gonna read 80 years of Batman to get caught up. But they know Christopher Nolan's Batman. They know Christian Bale's Batman. They're gonna know this Joker. They don't know that the Joker's background's been a mystery for 70 years, 75 years plus. The only thing they're gonna know is that this Joker is the backstory for that. In fact, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they had the X-Men story all jacked up because the only reference they have for X-Men were those Singer movies. Does that make sense? So I think movies as the general narrative that promotes the IPs will continue to serve itself. I don't think they need these comic books anymore. That's why I think the conversation is even happening at all about, will AT&T keep DC Comics? Will Disney continue to publish Marvel? I don't know. And if they... My wife's trying to call me. Anyway, let me read the chat. Heroes Con is still a heavy artist comic show because the store that hosts it is a comic book only store and a pop culture store. She's like rapping. It still has a few comic books. Jim Morales says, crowds like to buy originals. And they do a theme to your book that if you do a piece for drives business to your table because they do artist signature scavenger hunts, theme always empty. Okay. Jim, maybe I'm off that. I can't read what you said, but I know what you said. Paranormal's ode tonight, yes. So far, so good. Staying strong and healthy. Thank you, Arthur. You gotta run. Gotta listen in the car. Right on, like that. Out street today, yeah, it is. I think it'd be funny if his kind of name was Joseph Kerr and he only became the Joker to make that joke. Huh. Yeah, my kids have that same accent. Matt C, what's going on? So, my point is, the problem with the movies determining, that's why I think they need, by the way, did you guys hear about Bob Iger supposedly in his autobiography doing like a tell-all about how they didn't quite do the Star Wars thing right? I'm just saying pop culture, by definition, wasn't supposed to last this long. This stuff that we had enjoying in pop culture, it's supposed to go away as long as it's popular. Once it stops being popular, is this stuff popular? Maybe to me, maybe to you, but to everyone? I don't know. Haggis Moose. How you doing, Haggis Moose? Shirtmonger looking good. Thank you, my friend. Robo Dude says, got my Cyberfrog the other day. It was okay. Caught Ritter has some awesome colors though. See? So, I guess what am I saying? I'm not really saying anything. I'm just saying that there's definitely an interesting way this is all going to kind of roll out. So pop culture is going to dominate these conventions for a long time. The question is, what will be pop culture? Maybe San Diego has it right after all. Comics, we all are all upset with them because it's less comic books, because maybe comic books aren't popular. Does anybody really read comic books today? New people. And part of it, I think, is because, I'm not gonna lie, I think the direct market has hurt the comic book industry. And that, I think, is a big challenge to overcome. Will we overcome it? I hope so. I hope so. I have friends who are retailers. I want them to do well. But that's why I believe in what we're doing with crowdfunding. That's why I talk about it the way I talk about it. I don't believe it's a replacement for the comic shop or the comic book. I think it's a seeding of the IP and the concept so we can get that off the ground and into the hands of the customer in whatever format it needs to end up in. You know, I do have a funny feeling comics will end up becoming the first steps to film production. Popcorn, baby, popcorn. Matt C says, yeah, I gotta admit, comic books is a very niche thing. Will have to survive as a niche thing in the future. I think so. And we could keep it going, by the way. And I think part of it is the way we look at crowdfunding, that we're careful not to make it something it isn't. Crowdfunding is not a comic shop. You're not supposed to come to me I'm not replacing the comic shop. What I'm hoping to do is I hope comic shops and bookstores exist long into the future so that I can continue to put my stuff onto their shelves. Otherwise, we'll have to find another way for these things. But stories will still exist. So I think the only problem with film is that film is still, even as technology gets better, it's still expensive. And it's still time consuming. Comics are time consuming, but I can produce it super cheap if I have to. If I have my own story and crowdfunding didn't exist, I can still make a comic. How it gets distributed, now that's really another conversation, but that's a worthy one. Lightning Fan says, Robodude says, I'm new to comics, started reading them for the first time last year. Good, right on, Robodude. I'm glad you're here, man. Like I said, comics will exist. I'm just thinking about how it's packaged going forward. Crowdfunding to me, says Lightning Fan, is the proof of concept to the comic book industry that these books are popular and worthy. I don't know if there's much of a comic book. I don't think the comic book industry needs to be proven anything to. Zevius, good morning, man. How you doing? Good morning, Cam. Comic made on toilet paper. I guess that's true. I guess it's true. So I'm just saying all that to kind of challenge our thinking. We're trying to preserve something that may not need to exist the way we have it. I think that crowdfunding for your special edition, your special collector's item, I think we should start looking at it as a collector's market versus a mass market. That might be the better way to refer to this stuff. A collector's market can handle a book that's signed, that has prints and special goodies and things that enhance the enjoyment of that product and reward you for as an incentivizing a reward for those of people who invested in the project to be put together in the first place. And if it does well, we can start a second volume, a third volume, and so on and so forth. But that's not to say that's where it should end. I didn't think that way at first, but I'm seeing it that way now. Cam says, it says a panel on every sheet, and by the end of the roll, end the story. That's a long story. Just remember to read before you. Elliot, says Cam. Brian says you've got the auction sketch. I messaged you on Twitter about it. Yes, I'll have that out in the mail this week, Cam. What I meant was, says Lightning Fan, that the comic book industry can either pay attention to the crowdfunded comics, or they can wither away and die and take the entire industry with them. It's their choice. Well, again, that's I think that's a I don't think the comics industry is relevant right now. It's not making enough money. So it has to it has to find another outlet. Like it's a stream, that's great. It just needs to find a different way to get to the ocean. And I think the comics industry has done a decent job of building a dam for that stream, keeping it from flowing. And I don't know if the technology has allowed us, this goes back to my conversation about technology. Technology has moved past the comic book itself, the floppy, which leaves me with one alternative that most people don't like, but I'm not going to even mention it because you guys get all mad. Robo Dude says, doesn't that just make a niche market even more niche? It can. Haggis says, how do you think a lot of people grew out of comics as well? I haven't really read comics for 25 years and I'm now just buying the odd book. Same here, Haggis. Cam says, Elliot, can you just put the O on the sketch wherever you think looks cool? Yeah, I haven't had a chance to properly talk about it with Brian. We talked briefly yesterday, but I forgot to mention that. So I'll put the O somewhere for you, brother. I'll take care of it for you. Lightning Fan says, I think we're sort of arguing the same point, but yeah, there does need to be another outlet for all of us. Yeah. No, yeah, I don't think we're arguing at all. I think I'm emphasizing that point, that the comic industry, I don't know that there's much left to it. This goes back to those conversations. Like I said, if DC or Marvel, they're not the same company. If DC or Marvel decide or can't handle it and they shut down, all these comic shops go away. Not all of them, maybe. Most of them. I mean, maybe Forbidden Planet, maybe Midtown, maybe Golden Apple, maybe we have a good store down here, Emerald City, Chad's, Yancey Street Comics, Yancey Street North. I mean, the smaller shops, like my boy over at Nerd Out Comics. What happens to that store? I'm just saying, these are the realities of the industry. And it's changing, you know? You got it, Cam. No rush. Andrew J says, it's amazing. Your walking stride matches perfectly with the dancing Paula Abdul's on Brian Shearer's channel. What's up? What about the character lifespan? Do you think maybe the mainstream characters have reached their end? You know, it's hard to talk about that because I'm still attached to many of these characters, if not most. I love Superman. I love Batman. You know, this is why I think, by the way, I hate to say this. This is a tough one. Also, this is why I think I'm doing a cool down now. This is why I think that it's important for things to go into public domain. You know, if Bram Stoker Incorporated still owned Dracula, what would have happened to Dracula by now? It would have stopped being published and would have held on to the rights. I'm not talking like oh my goodness. Stop calling people. I'm not saying that people don't like the idea of public domain because it seems like it's infringing on the creator, but the point of public domain is that it doesn't infringe on the creator as long as the creator's alive. Once that creator's passed, then it becomes public domain after so many years. Disney keeps extending it. Their lawyers keep making moves to extend that stuff. If Dracula had stayed part of that, what would have happened? Yes, if they were big enough, they could have promoted it more. But what if Dracula was a comic? What happens if they go away? Then Dracula would go away. But Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, all those properties still linger. They still exist because someone had the foresight of letting those things go into the hands of the people, the masses. So a lot of people can interpret Dracula in many different ways. The, what I'm concerned about is not so much whether it's reached its end, but what happens to it after it ends, if it does. Paranormal sync. Like, no, I don't mean to argue like we're having an argument. I mean, we're blaming the case for this. Yeah, same point. Yep. Massey says, I would legit cry if Emerald City shut down. Yeah, me too. How old is Batman? Batman was created, I believe, in 39. Superman was 38, right? Is that how it goes? Shouldn't he have aged out at the suit by now? Yeah, that's true. Very important for public domain. Yes, says Arthur Brown. But I guess the market would have to decide what survives. Well, that's true, but I'm saying that like Batman is a super important character. It's part of our culture. It's part of it's part of the lexicon of everything that we talk about. People know the Batman logo, that Superman logo, Spider-Man, McDonald's, Harley Davidson. These are some of the biggest brands on the planet. Like you can be in India and people know what Superman is. But so I suspect it will survive. But it has to be out of the hands of the people clutching it into their grave. That's kind of what I think it looks like to me right now. You know, these companies are so big, they just lasted longer than they probably were supposed to. You know, I feel like I remember listening to multiple, interviews. I remember John Romita Sr. said that they didn't think the superhero Marvel comic thing was going to last longer than a few years. They were all ready to go back into advertising, and it just kept going. Captain Marvel Shazam is in the public domain, just not his name. Well, there you go. You're right. Like Doomcock talks about, Camp says, this is our modern mythology, like Hercules. Yeah. So, but notice you could tell all kinds of stories with Hercules, and anyone can do a Hercules. But not anyone can do these other ones because the law has been tied up. People have created loopholes. Again, I'm all for, I'm all for the courts and I'm all for lawyers doing their thing, I guess. But what I'm trying to say is that at the end of the day, I'm just speaking very spiritually about some of these characters. Going back to the industry, because the industry is not a mythology. It's a myth, but it's not mythology. The industry, as the deciders and the gatekeepers, yeah, sure, maybe. But at the end of the day, there's technology out now. You can make anything and you can put it online if you want. You can make a comic and get it online. I wonder if conventions in the future will look more like small press businesses or conventions where people want to see the latest. It's kind of like now. I just watched a show on television. My daughter and my wife were watching this show about these masked singers. Piece of trash. Anyway, and Cosmetically, what's going on? And who was it? Ninja was on there. The Twitch guy, the video game guy. He's got like 6 million followers or something like that. Or maybe more than that, like 60 million, I don't know. The point I'm making is he's not even a typical talent. He's not even like a Hollywood person. He's just a guy. He barely sang. He just wore a funny mask and a costume. And people loved him. So I'm just saying that I see that happening where these independent guys like myself and other people will gain support and people will enjoy it because now we don't have any gates so that people can't see our product. Anyone can see it. That's a good and a bad thing in some ways, depending who you talk to, but that's kind of where I think it's That's where I think it's headed. That's just an observation. I'm not sure if it will go that way, but I hope it gets bigger. But I do think that the way that we've been purchasing comics, when a company, if we don't have a Marvel and DC with the infrastructure to sell their stuff at that certain price point that they're selling it at, I don't think that, I hate gnats. I hate them. Anyway, I don't think you're gonna, I think crowdfunding is the way it's going to start. Where it ends up, I don't know. I'm not sure yet, and we don't have enough data. We're literally at the precipice of the future, and I don't know. We have all this solid, 3D printed comics. Why would we need 3D printed comics? I don't think that's the idea. Cam says, it makes me wonder about digital comics. It makes a ton of sense for distribution. Eliminates so many problems. I just don't like it at this point. Well, Cam, I am actually that's what I was talking about earlier, where you guys are going to get mad at me. I'm a huge fan of digital comics. I think I just think, what I think is I hear Zach complain about it. I actually disagree with Zach quite a bit on this. And not because he's making sense from his perspective, but I think he's not looking at it the way it ought to be seen. Digital comics should not be sold at the same price point as physical comics. What goes into that price point for physical comics? A couple things. Storage, shipping, production, meaning printing, production of the book, right? The artists, the creators, the writers. We've got a covered storage ready, warehousing and stuff like that. Shipping, fuel, marketing, sales, infrastructure. You got to pay bills. You got to pay the people, the employees in finance and in human resources and all this kind of stuff, right? You go straight to the digital format, you eliminate 95% of all that mess. It's just you and your customer. Now, you lose speed. If you're a single or an independent creator, you lose speed. You can't, but you gain vast distribution. So maybe the only bill that increases is paying the artists, because you don't have to ship anything, that kind of thing. This is why digital, I think, is a good partner to crowdfunding. The big special edition collector's item is your book. You want to have a book, you want paper, pay for the paper, pay for the book, get it signed. One of the things I'm going to start doing, I talked to Andy, I'm going to start pulling back. I'm going to start charging for my signature. Why? Because it's not fair if I'm signing everything, right? That what's the value of my signature if I'm signing anything? Let's keep it for you guys who want to invest in the project. That makes sense. Or you can meet me at a con, and, throw me $5 for a signature or whatever. Just make the average customer pay for it. Or they can pay for it on floppies. If there's still floppies around, that's why I'm looking to see, and I support Alterna. They've got the right idea. If floppies are going to exist, they've got to become financially more accessible. The problem I think right now is that comics are expensive, and comic shops are forced to buy, not forced, but they have no alternative. They have to buy every cover of Batman number 16, because they have fans who will only buy that. Very few people will take a chance on something new. So, whatever. These are just my thoughts, right? These are just my thoughts. 3D printed comics says to meet in the middle between digital and physical. But I don't know why you need 3D printed. It's paper, and I don't understand that. I always say I like digital, but then I don't read them. I always read my physical. I actually read. When I read, I'm reading digital now. I know that sounds crazy. You guys think I'm nuts, but I'm reading a lot of digital stuff. I have an iPad. I have a computer. It's larger. It's harder for me to see this stuff, and if I really want to use it as reference, I don't have to get a glasses on, a magnifying glass. I can see most of the art originally as it was illustrated. Cam says, yes, the logistics are a huge cost. That's why digital does make sense. It's just a personal preference for having a physical habit. But like I said, that's why I think, I'm sure you're responding to something I already just said a few minutes ago, but that's where you can get involved in the initial startup point of the new concept. Junkyard says, I'm in Japan, so I have been buying digital forever. Can't pay to ship floppies here on the regular, especially with how many I buy weekly. See? There you go. And by the way, kids, don't forget that the American market is very smug and you guys know it because we have a bunch of these guys who are like, I won't buy that because the girl has too much boobs, or I won't buy that because this sexist. There's okay, fine. But there's a lot of people on the world. There's a whole untapped market for us around the earth. We just got to find ways to get it out there. And the only people we keep talking about is our local comic shop down the street. But what about the readers overseas? What about Junkyard Dunn? What about his friends who may be reading stuff on their phones or on their... I understand you don't like it, but listen, literally a whole generation of people are just staring at this right now. I'm talking to my phone right now. My daughter just stares at her phone all the time, looking at YouTube. They're not reading it in comic size. They're not watching movies on a big screen. They're not even watching it on television size. They're watching it on something like 4 by 3 or 2 or 6 by 2. You know what I'm saying? Let's see, Cam says he's got no problems with those options. This is why I think Peter Sinetti model is the best, says Matt C. There's something coming out every month with them. Yeah. And it's inexpensive. That's the real problem. The problem is the cost. You know, but there's still a challenge. But Peter knows this. Peter's even has some stuff digital out there. He's working his way around the circuit. Plastic comic pages would look legit. No way, man. Plus, that's just why not just print it on paper then? Arthur, don't take this the wrong way, helping you. I'm talking like I'm talking to anybody, so I apologize. I don't mean to be rude. Arthur Brown says, random thought on something you said earlier. Every time someone tells me that we are a capitalist society, I argue that we've become a corporatist society. I.e. Disney, Walmart, Starbucks. I don't know about that. Maybe. I don't know. That sounds like you're, making a ham sandwich out of tuna. I don't know. I just made that up. I guess. Sure. Still capitalist though. Still founded. I could still sell stuff myself. And the death of the mom and pop. Yeah, but see, that's the point though. I see. This is what's happened. So all of you guys were cool when we were in school, and then we learned about capitalism, and we learned about how businesses evolve and culture evolves. We were like, man, what's wrong with the horse and buggy guy? Get over it. We got cars. Well, guess what? Now we're the horse and buggy guys saying, what about our mom and pops? Mom and pops have moved to the digital world. That's the point I've been trying to make. And nobody wants to agree with, nobody wants to see that. So most of my opponents don't want to see that, let's just say. Because they say, no, we've got to have the physical. Yeah, I understand the physical. Physical is what you get with the special edition. That's what I remember Ethan saying that early on. That was a great point, and I still love that point. The crowdfunded book is the experience edition. Everything else drops in tears, and unfortunately, it drops fast. But there still are stores around the world. That goes back to the other thing. We're also very myopic about the way we approach this comic industry. We're always only talking about it in terms of American market. There's Japanese people reading comics, Italian people, Spanish people, French people. There's all kinds of people that are reading the comics. You know what I'm saying? I also believe in paying for the goods and services, Cam says. Yeah, well, I think you are paying for a good and service. Good to see you commitment to exercise, Elliot. Thank you, Mary. I'm trying. Cam says, I think they are talking about just being able to print out a copy locally. Well, I'm saying plastic, you don't need a 3D printer for that's what I'm saying. I'm questioning the 3D printer part of it, because that's expensive. 3D printers are not cheap. The best thing about being independent, says Warzard, is you can make your own decisions about what you want to do. Yep. Cam says equals smug. Well, the reason why I say smug is because we only think about ourselves. Man, I want everybody to read my stuff. I want people in Malaysia to read my stuff. I want people in the Philippines to read my stuff. I want people in Africa to read my stuff. Who doesn't want us? That's my point. These jackholes who are the gatekeepers of the current American comic industry, they're not the owners of the whole industry, the whole comic book. They're not owners of the form. Marvel and DC don't own the form. They just own their particular business and handling their part of the form. That's it. Let's make some stuff, y'all. Cam says I'm pro boobs. Uncanny says I'm reading a lot of older comics right now due to digital. Go Party Time says that's a valid argument. Plus, they don't want to haul around those books. Yeah. Jalapeno says, do you use guided view when reading digital? I like it, but I'm afraid I won't learn panel sequencing or develop an eye for it. I mean, there's options for it. You don't have to read it that way. I like it. I personally like it. I feel like I have more control of the reader that way. I feel like I can surprise you when you have a guided view, but I also like the idea, the art of the page. But this is what, you guys remember a guy named Scott McCloud who wrote a book called Understanding Comics? And he talked about this 20 years ago. And everybody said, he's an idiot. Because at the time, the way you would make a comics, you have to open up a website, start a web page just to launch your comic, which is still a valid thing, by the way. But I'm saying now you could set it up so that you're reading it an image at a time. So the comic doesn't have to be, see, it goes back to we're already conditioned, and it's okay, I understand. We're all conditioned to think that a comic is supposed to be vertical. Americans, of course, think it's supposed to be read from left to right. And then when we get to manga, I don't get it. It don't make no sense. Those crazy Japanese people read from top to bottom, right to left. Like, okay, well, guess what? We could change that. Just make it an image at a time. I'm just saying we can challenge the way we've been producing these things, and it will significantly alter what we're trying to do. I love that idea. But I also think that if you are married to the traditional format, then I say go for it. I just think that format exists because of the limitation of the size of the page and the way we cut the pages down for printing. It goes back to this old story I heard. It's kind of a joke. It's about this woman who was learning from her mother how to why she kept cutting off the tips of her roast to put it into the roaster in the oven. And she finally asks her mother, I don't know, my mother always told me to do it like that. So she goes to the grandmother and says, Grandma, why did you cut the tips? What does it do? Does it enhance the flavor? Does it make it juicier? What is the benefit of cutting the tips off the roast? And the grandmother said, there's no benefit. It just wouldn't fit in this roaster that I used to have. That's why I cut it off. So the point is that was an invention because of the limitation of the format, not because that was the way it was supposed to be done. So you can still do a flowing thing. That's what Scott McCloud argued. You can still do a flowing thing and have the page go up and then go down and then go sideways and then go reverse. You can do all kinds of things. Don't be limited by the format or the limitations. Thinking about it, says Cam, there are comics that I do in 3 minutes that I don't really care about having a copy forever. There you go, Cam. That's a good reason. I'm running out of space. I have to limit my collection. So a digital for me is very important. I just wish it was cheaper. There's no reason why I should be paying $5 in physical form, floppy, and $5 in a digital. That doesn't make any sense. But it makes sense for Marvel and DC. I think those of us who are doing something different should start planning ahead. Rocket Worm says, comic book shops pretty much died out over here, rare at least. Where are you at, Rocket Worm? Darth Crusader says, start drawing Doomkicker, Elliot. I am. Darth Crusader, what's wrong with you? Jalapeno Milk says, I was having fun trolling you a bit, Mr. Fernandez. Oh, there you go. Matt C says, what's so good for a PDF then? 120 pages for $10 maybe? I mean, that seems reasonable. I'll tell you what, when I buy trade paperbacks from DC, especially since I'm not that interested, they always do a sale, and the sale is always the same. $6 for any given trade. All right, $6 sounds fair to me. $10 sounds fair to me. There's something about that round number. Once you get into the $20, even 15, it's like, that's a big chunk of the budget, especially if you only have like $40, $50 to spend. That's a good chunk of what you have. So I think so. Fluxcore says, but do those people deserve comics? Who? Who deserves? I want everybody to read my comics. Everyone outside of America enjoys comics and genres outside of superhero stuff. Stuff like DOOMKICKER. Market's already established out there. Yes, sort of, yeah. Yep, got that book on my shelf, says Cam Dick Levin. Scott McCloud really nailed it, yep. We won World War II, we have the right to read the right. To fit in the pan. To fit in the pan? Yeah, yeah. Get them steps in, bro. I'm doing it, Jose. I'm doing it. Oh, the UK, right on, Rocket World. Oh, there you go. So how are you guys getting your comics, if at all, in the UK? Rocket World said they're big in France, though. You can even get them in supermarkets. See? That's what I'm talking about. See, I'm right. I knew I was right. Peter Sharon says, Jerkmog Rocketworm is Doug's colors for EWJ. Oh! Oh! Oh gosh. I'm sorry. Hi, Rocketworm. I forgot. Oh, you sweet lady. I appreciate you so much. Hey, I know you love the technical questions, says Arthur. But what desktop tablet do you use or suggest? Desktop tablet? I mean, if I could only get a tablet, I would get an Intuos. If I could get otherwise I'd get a Cintiq. Although, if I were you and I couldn't afford a Cintiq, I would definitely go Lenovo. Lenovo or Huyang. Those are dope, and they're getting better and better. Check out there's a guy, I forget, man, but there's a guy that does just look up some reviews on the Huyang, in particular the Huyang Canvas 22, I think, or Canvas 16, very reasonably priced, and an excellent tool, and getting better and better, getting harder and harder. The separation between that and Cintiq is getting trickier. The Cintiq Wacom is having issues. Let's just say the competition is stiff. Online, I guess, here, Amazon, etc. Yeah. Oh, I love you, Rocket Worm. Let's see. Another thing, says Cam. In the past, comics were trash. Few people saved them. They read them in the bathroom and used them in bird cages. Yeah, I guess. Jose says, I don't read comics anymore. All these left-wing, right-wing SJW people are ruining it for me. That and lazy story writing. Well, that's the problem, Jose. So I guess my going back to my point, why not take advantage of a digital marketplace at a better and more reasonable price? The problem is this. That startup to produce the product is a pain. Hence, my inclusion of, which is why I think that crowdfunding is necessary. If you guys believe in the book and the story, you like my art, you think you're going to enjoy the writing when you get it, you guys back the book and a crowdfunding level, all of a sudden this book is, oh snap, this is awesome. Now I can afford to work on the book and then get it out to whatever outlets there are. Right now it's a little more complicated because we still have comic shops. In the future, maybe comic shops move to online. Maybe it's like that. Maybe the future of comics are exclusive deals between the creators and comic shops. What if my local comic shop guy starts an online store and you can only buy my comic from him? That's my point. It's kind of like just like the streaming services. I mean, it drives me nuts. I hate that I have to have Hulu and this and that. But if you want to buy that, you still spend the money. Just switching out who you're buying it from. To me, that makes sense. Problem is, at that point, pirating becomes more of an issue than it has been in the past. But really, is it? Like I said, if comics were cheaper, when comics are cheaper, I know for a fact that people buy them. When they're too expensive, people tend to pirate them. That's the reality. So if we can boost the project, if you can boost the project at the beginning, then it doesn't matter if I sold it for 25 cents or if I gave it out for free and you just bought the t-shirts from me. That's another thing to talk about, but that's another conversation. See, Gogo Party Time says, I see indie comics on Gumroad in digital form, like $3 to $5. There's definitely a market for digital products. Yep. Cam says, I'd love for creators to be able to reach 1 million people instead of 5,000. That means I get to keep reading because it's more viable. See, I don't agree with that, because I think you don't need. That's what's wrong with Marvel and DC. They're banking on millions of readers, and they only have thousands of readers, and then they still pretend that they have millions of readers. America Chavez is the most it's a super popular character. Not really. Anyway, but that's their narrative. Flux courses digest size seems to work to get into food markets. Except that food markets, I've talked to some people. There's actually a weird thing there, and I think really Marvel and DC botched it up for us. The direct market botched that up. So a lot of times the food markets are like, you know what, forget you. And you'd be surprised how much it costs Archie to get that stuff in there. Just saying. Cam says, Cosmeti, I might be convinced about the some are for collecting and keeping, others are for reading. There you go. I buy Alterna, says Cosmeti, though, to support them. Then I donate all the books after I read them. Very cool. Very cool. So a little insect flying on me. I mean, if you can reach more people with digital. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, like I said, man, which would I rather have? 1,000 people buying something from me for $5 a comic, that I only get some of that money because Image gets most of it or Marvel gets most of it. I'm just a creator getting a chunk of it. What if I sold it for 25 cents or $1 to 1 million people? Just saying. Zach is always talking about hot dog stands. Yeah, well, I guess. What if we had a hot dog stand that sold comics? I don't know if I want the hot dog water on my comic, but that's not a bad idea. That's just another version of the newsstand. You're right. There's not every city has a newsstand. Like I live in Tampa. There's no newsstands here or hot dog stands. Cam says a larger customer base seems more able to endure fluctuations. If you only have 10 customers and one goes away, that's 10% of your market. That's true. But that's also, I think, that's the problem is we keep making any one of these things the entire business model. The model has to include all of these things, in my opinion. Matt C., my man, says, what about the Jason Brubaker model? Put it out for free on the website. People are reading a fraction of it and then buying the crowdfunded book to finish it. I love that idea. That's a great idea. Let's do that. I think I'm on board with that for sure. I tell you, I'm much more flexible with this stuff, more than you guys might think. Peter Sharon says, ice cream trucks that sell comics, I think they tried it with the Comic Men show. Starting to win me over, says Cam. Well, we'll see. All right, guys, I'm going to let you guys go because I'm at my residence. I know that my internet's going to drop out as soon as I get in there. So we had a bookmobile when I was a kid, see. But nobody reads books now. Cam says, if things were available digital, you can read it for a relatively low cost, and then if you love it, order a physical copy to keep. That's actually what I do. I purchased White Knight digitally when it was on sale. I don't know if it was on sale. I think it was on sale. I bought it inexpensively. And then I bought the physical copy because I wanted to have it. I wanted to support Sean Gordon Murphy's work. So now I'm excited about his next book. Great example. All right, thank you, Rocket Worm. I appreciate you. Nice walk. How many calories did you in the chat burn? I don't know, Andrew. I'm not keeping track of that right now. Bull Moon says, oh. Manfred says, I arrived too late. Possibly. And have a great day, Peter, too. Thank you, guys. All right. No one reads books. I know. It's true. No one does. It's a sad thing. Well, there's still people. It's just by and large, they don't. All right, you kids. Thanks for everything. Junkyard Done. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for doing what you do, brother. And the rest of you guys, stay safe. God bless you all. And I'll talk to you.